Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to look at standard position of an angle, and we're also going to look at what we call coterminal angles. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about some terminology, so some vocabulary. We will always start graphing on the positive x-axis, and we call that our initial side. And then if we go counterclockwise, this would give me a positive angle, which we'll talk about in just a second. But where we end is called the terminal side, and then the center here is called the vertex of the angle. We rarely will, talk about the vertex, but we will use, the idea of initial side and terminal side as we talk about angle measurements. So when we do positive angle measurements, we're looking at angles that go counterclockwise. So we start on the positive x-axis always. And then what we do is we go, like, for example, 140 degrees. So this angle here goes 140 degrees. Why does it go 140 degrees? So if I wanted to graph it, 0, where I start, is on my positive x-axis. Then going counterclockwise is 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, and then back around to 360. So 140 is bigger than 90, but smaller than 180. So it is an approximate. I'm not asking you guys to go through and use a protractor or anything like that. We don't need to be that exact, but I do need you to know what quadrant you're supposed to be in. Quadrant meaning quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. I would prefer them to be in Roman numerals. But I understand if you want to just use numbers, and that's okay. Just make sure if you do use numbers that you put a Q before that so that I know that you're talking about the quadrant. Okay, and then again, we'll start on our positive x-axis. And if I go negative 125 degrees, that actually puts me in quadrant 3. And negative angle measurements are rotated clockwise. Okay, so let's graph something in standard position. So 33 degrees is smaller than 90. So we could say that maybe it's right about here, even though it what I just drew kind of looks like 45 degrees. We can go ahead and call it 33. I really just want you to know that 33 degrees is supposed to be in quadrant 1. So now, terminal side again, 125 degrees, quadrant 2. Yes, I want you guys to draw the arrow. Yes, I want you to label the angle measurement. No, I don't care if you use colored markers, pencils, crayons, whatever you want to do. So terminal side 238 degrees is bigger than 180, but smaller than 270. So around here gives me 238 degrees. And then my 375 is kind of odd. He's kind of strange. So I mark on my terminal side, and when I go around, that gives me 360 degrees, and then a little bit more would give me 375. So I just need like 15 more degrees here. But I did go all the way around in a circle and then back around again to get 375 degrees. Okay, so coterminal angles is the next thing that we're about to talk about. And with coterminal angles, what we're looking at is angles that have the same terminal side. Okay, and there's an infinite number of coterminal angles that can be formed. I'm looking for one positive angle measurement and one negative angle measurement. So because I'm asking for a specific positive and negative value, I do want you to add or subtract to get to a number that is either a positive or a negative value. And so you'll see. Okay, so now I want to find a coterminal angle with 45 degrees. So I first start out by drawing my 45 degrees. And then I'm going to go ahead and coterminal angles share a terminal side. So what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to find another angle that is coterminal with it. So in order for me to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way around and back again. So if I'm going to add 360 here, and I will get 405. So that is a positive coterminal angle. If I want to go negative, I'm just going to go backwards. I'm going to go clockwise. Right? So then I'm going to subtract 360 degrees. So I'll get negative 315. So what do I want to see on your actual paper is I want to see 405, 45, and 315. And if you're off a little bit on your circles, I'm not as concerned, but I do want to make sure that your angle measurements are correct. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and graph negative 150 degrees, which is here. Okay, so now when I do negative 150 degrees, I want a positive angle measurement and a negative angle measurement. So I'm going to add 360. That's coterminal. And again, if you have an issue with like arithmetic horizontally, you could just write it out. So this would be negative positive 210. So 210 degrees. And then if I'm going to do the negative one, I'll have to subtract 360. Let's see, 210. Subtract off 360, and I get 510. So I'm going to go around and back again to get negative 510. Okay, so again, 720 is going to be slightly strange because I'm going to actually go, that's 360, and that's 720. So I went all the way around twice, essentially, to get to 720. Now, when I do 720 and I add 360, right? So I add 360, I'm going to get 1080, right? So essentially, I'll go counterclockwise once, twice. Oops. Just kidding. My circles are all funky. Once, twice, and a big fat mess of 3 times. So 1,080. And mainly, like, I don't know necessarily how much I'm going to be counting those circles as much as I'm going to be looking to make sure that your angle measurements are right. So 720, and then I need to subtract 360. But what ends up happening is I get a positive 360, not a negative angle measurement. So I subtract 360 again. I get 0. Still not a negative value, so I need to subtract off 360 again to get negative 360. So I'm going to keep subtracting off 360 until I get a negative angle measurement. So negative 360. And again, what I'm checking mainly is I'm checking to make sure that these angle measurements are correct. Okay. The next thing that I want to do is I want to see if the two angles are coterminal. So my 90 degrees is up here. And then 630, do it in a different color. So I would go around to get 360. And then around again to get to 270. And they do not have the same terminal side. So these are not coterminal, because they would have to share the same terminal side.